Hi all, AD here from Hans and Johns. As always, thank you so much for clicking on the video. Today I'm in deepest, darkest Devon. So we're here somewhere different. I've never been to Devon before. And we're at a place called St Wilfred's Church. So I'm just reading the sign over there in Branscombe. It's just there behind me. I know absolutely nothing about it, so let's go and have an explore. One of the first things I noticed about St Winifred's is that it isn't your typical village church that you'd spot from miles away, high on a hilltop with a big spire. Instead, it's built on a terrace plateau low down in the valley. And perhaps its sheltered position is the reason why we can read such an old tomb. This one is dated 1667. Now, the church isn't visible from the coast, and some historians think that that's intentional. It's like the people who built it didn't want it as a blazing beacon for Viking raiders who would have been sailing past. The tower here in front of me is believed to have been built after 1148, and you can see the outline of two later 13th century doors. And this really ancient tomb dates from 1667. In 1906, the parish didn't have a font, so this 15th century stone font was offered as a gift by East Devon parish. It had been found originally under the floor of the church, and it may have been a sister church interned to St Wilfred's 700 years before. It has an octagonal bowl with 4-leaved panels and large leaves and a head to support the bowl, but the actual pillar is modern. This stunning oak gallery is being dated as 16th century, and it was probably a gift from a wealthy patron. It has been described as one of the finest and earliest to be erected in any English parish church. A part of a mural was discovered in 1911, and it's said to be dated from about 1450, and it measures 7 feet by 5 feet, and it's thought to be part of an illustration of the 7 deadly sins. And here we can see some early English stonework alongside some Norman stonework. The church is dedicated to St Winifred, who's a Welsh saint from the 7th century. Not a household name or a very well-known saint, but a very important figure in early British Christianity. And interestingly enough, before the dedication to Winifred, the village may have had connections with St Brannock. There are old medieval records suggesting the church once held the relic of his arm before it was moved to Milton Abbey in Dorset in AD 933. And along here you can see the fragment of an early frieze, and this would have been an old doorway into the church, but you can see the arch has collapsed, but they have kept all the fragments there. Maybe they're planning to restore it in the future. We're going to go into the south transept now, and there's a beautiful, particularly fine monument in here, and it's for Anne Mitchell, and she died in 1606, and it's in a Renaissance Corinthian style, and trust me, I have no idea what that means. I just read it. It's got these, I'm not sure if they're scary faces, I'm not really quite sure, but obviously they're in such fine condition because this monument has been inside for the last 420 years. I'm going to try and read you what it says on here. Here lieth entombed the body of a virtuous and godly gentlewoman named Anne, one of the daughters of John Mitchell from Cornwall, gent. She was married to Ellis Bartlett of Branscombe, gent, and had by him one child. She lived to the age of, I think that's 47 years, and departed this life the last day of January 1606. Rest in peace. Beautiful condition, isn't it? can still see the faces quite clearly. I wonder if that's a green man. If anyone knows, please do let me know in the comments. We're going to head across now into the north transept, and I'm going to show you St Winifred's three-tier pulpit. Now it dates from the late 18th century, and around that time Reverend Thomas Puddicombe would have been the vicar of Branscombe, so I can just imagine him up here giving his sermon. The lowest level is where the lesson is read, the middle was for prayers, and the top for the sermon. Now the hexagonal third level is made of a different type of wood, and this may have been the original pulpit. Good examples of this type of pulpit are very rare in England, and they're even rarer in Devon, where the only other example of one is at Molland. And there's another couple of really interesting tombs. This one is the tomb of Joan Wadham. And now her first husband was John Kellaway, and she had 14 children. Her second husband was Sir Joan Wadham, by whom she had 6 children, so she had a total of 20 offspring. She is almost certainly not buried here, as the tomb has been moved. It sits on an unidentified older table tomb. And you can see Joan kneeling behind each of her husbands with their offspring. If you want to read this, please do pause it now, and you can read the inscription. But it does say on here, really interestingly, that Joan was descended of the ancient house of the Plantagenets. Very interesting there. So we're going to go and have a quick look at another tomb that actually bears no name here in the north transept, but it's thought to be a memorial to an Elias Holcomb, and it was identified by the coat of arms. It has been described as a clumsy copy of the Wadham Memorial. Now he died in 1585, 2 years after Joan. And also here in the north transept is a double piscina, with a credence ledge above it, and an ambry. Now they would have obviously washed the communion vessels in the piscina, and the shelf above it would have held the Holy Communion. And that wooden door to the right is the ambry, and it would have been used for storing holy books, sacramental vessels and vestments. And just heading into the town now, and there's loads of memorials, but I also found this fragment of ancient rood, and apparently it was discovered in the old vicarage woodshed. It has been calculated that when it was full size it would have filled the chancel archway. And there's also this piece of Jacobean wooden panelling, which I think is absolutely beautiful. There's loads of lovely memorials in here. If you do want to read them, then please do pause. That one's from 1751. And there's more to the Bartlett family. So he died in 1704, but this one's quite extraordinary. If you want to pause it, he died in 1922, aged 103 years and 6 months. So he had a very good innings. Rest in peace, sir. That's 1737. And that's another couple of the Bartlett family. And then this one is, I'm not sure if this was originally on the floor, but it's for a John Bamfield who died in 1719. And there's this piece of ancient stonework, and I can't help but think that this looks like Shrek again sticking his tongue out, doesn't it? I can't unsee that now, but I just had to give it a bit touch, soak up some of that ancient energy. And here is the list of the vicars of Branscombe from 1269 up until 2019. We're going to head into the tower now, and the 6 bells the oldest one is dated 1635. The next one is dated 1671. Then we've got one dated in 1696, then 1747, and in 1897 they added the final one to celebrate the Diamond Jubilee of Queen Victoria. And here's an old door here. I love seeing the worn steps. Think of all the people that walked in there for hundreds of years. And this is another aumbry where they would have kept the vessels and holy books and scriptures, etc. And it's now been turned into a memorial for those who lost their lives in the war. And there's also a list of people who served from the parish. And the wood that was used to make that memorial is actually from the original roof, so they repurposed it. We're going to head into the chancel now, and there's some interesting windows here because there's some low side windows which apparently were common in medieval chancels, but they were later blocked up and hidden. But they were restored in 1911, and the internal masonry string allows for them, proving that they were part of the original plan. Now it's believed that they were always shuttered and never glazed, and their precise use is the subject of much argument. The most common view being that they allowed people outside the building, such as lepers, to observe the raising of the host during Mass and to receive the holy bread and wine. And we have seen quite a few squints in churches down in Sussex, but I've never actually seen one that had a shutter. And there's some more memorials here and a beautiful carved chair. Beside the altar there's a triple sedilia, which is where the priests taking part in the ceremony would have sat, and beside it is a single piscina. Now these have cusped arches and were probably decorated originally with stone canopies, which were almost certainly broken, and the recess was blocked up during the Reformation, so they remained hidden behind plaster until 1911. Interestingly, above here there seems to be the remains of some black letter text. I wonder what that said originally. We shall never know. And there is the piscina. And now we're going to head over to the other side of the altar, and I've spotted this coffin lid. I'm presuming it's Saxon. It looks very similar to other ones that I have found. I love how down here they've put the pipes in around it. And there's also some very old memorials here on the wall. I can't read this because I think it's Latin. But died in, I think it's 1691. And then there's another one next to it, another member of the Bartlett family who died in 1749. And there you can see that little window where the priest would have looked out over the high altar when he lived above. As we walk back down the nave, the building feels like a collection of so many different periods, doesn't it? It's a continuous story from Saxon origins, the Normans, 15th century rebuilding, the Jacobean woodwork and Victorian care. So we're going to step back outside and have a look around the churchyard. I couldn't find a date on this inscription. It was too difficult to read, but it was for Charity Lee, with her only husband and her only son. I'm guessing it's 17th century because it looks very similar to the other ones that are dated. So here we find some old exterior steps that are built against the side of the church, and these stone steps, although they're really worn now, would have given access to the gallery that I showed you when we first went in on the left hand side. Now it possibly was used for musicians, or it may even have been used to seat the benefactors and the members of the family who donated this, so they may have used that during the service. But yeah, very worn steps. And this is an up close shot of the top of the tower. These are the type of places that I never get to see myself. And look at the little door there, the top of the turret. Beautiful location, isn't it? I'm just going to have a walk around the churchyard, but sadly most of them are so weathered you can no longer read them. Although this old tomb over here, we saw this on the way in. It must be in quite a sheltered position. You can read that from 1667. Some of the 18th century gravestones are still standing clearly, although they're difficult to read. Others are leaning and softened by the weather, and it's a reminder that the church just isn't medieval history. It's been in constant use for hundreds of years, and I wonder how many generations of families are buried here. And out of the corner of my eye, I did notice this on the way in, you may have noticed it, is this Saxon coffin. And I wonder if the Saxon coffin lid that's up beside the altar is the lid off this. I just think it's such a shame it's just dumped here. One of the most unique things I found here is what may be a Saxon tie dial or a scratch dial. The hours from 6 to 11 are scratched in Roman numerals, and the southern buttress of the chancel serves to throw the shadow, and the first three Roman numerals are regarded as being the same age as the chancel, and no other example of this type of scratch dial is known or has ever been recorded. So, very interesting. And I noticed on the way back round that this tomb that I showed you on the way in has an inscription from 1579. So this is the oldest inscription that I've ever been able to read on a grave so far. So that's a quick walk through St Winifred's Church in Branscombe, and it really is a hidden gem. If you're ever in the area, do check it out. It feels so ancient yet so alive, and it's just so full of stories. And I'm sure, as always, I've only just scratched the surface. I'm going to wrap the video up here. Wasn't that an amazing church? So much going on there in this tiny little rural place. It seems to be now more and more, it's becoming more apparent that the smaller and more rural the place is, the more history they seem to have inside. So thank you so much for watching today's video. I really do appreciate it. If you did, if you could please like, subscribe, hit the hype button if you've got one on your screen. It doesn't cost you anything, but it really helps the channel. If you'd like to support the channel a little bit more, you can hit the Buy Me a Coffee link down below, because we always make a payment to all these places that we visit. Just a small contribution, And that's just me helping them in the little way that I can, because I know it's really expensive to upkeep these buildings, and it's really important to me anyway to make sure that these buildings are kept and their history for future generations. So thanks again for watching. I'll see you for the next one. It might be a hunt, it might be a jaunt, who knows. Bye for now.